Hi, I'm Eddie Wong. I'm one of the founders of Visual Communications, and what you're about to see is an exhibit called At First Light, The Dawning of Asian Pacific America. We founded Visual Communications in 1970, and it's about to turn 50 years old next year. We were also fortunate enough to be present at the very beginning of the Asian American movement in Los Angeles. And now you're going to be able to see some of the key people and events and issues which affected our lives. This is an exhibit called America's Concentration Camps, but it's really better known as the Cubes exhibit. And it was initiated by Bob Suzuki of the JACL, who approached Bob Nakamura about creating a photo display about the World War II incarceration of Japanese Americans. At the time, JACL was initiating a campaign to protest the revival of Title II of the Internal Security Act, which would have authorized the government to use camps again in times of quote-unquote crisis. So Bob put together this innovative cubes concept where people could walk around it, and actually, if you notice, there are openings in the exhibit where from one side you can actually see the faces of people watching the exhibit. So it sort of was a commentary about, being in the camps again. It was a very impactful exhibit. People started talking about the whole concentration camp experience and how unjust it was, and it really spurred the activism of Nisei and Sansei. These photographs of the first Manzanar pilgrimage were taken by Bob Nakamura on December 27th, 1969. As you can see from the photos, it was a very moving event for people. And we also have a video as part of the exhibit. So just go online and look at stories from the VC archives, and you'll hear one of the key organizers, Warren Furatani, talk about the origins of the pilgrimage and its impact. One of the interesting parts of the exhibit actually is talking about analog uses of media. This is pre-digital, and so we're talking about shooting film, which means hand rolling the film to process it, and then printing up contact sheets like this image here on the wall that's blown up, selecting images, putting it into an enlarger, and making prints. So it's a very long process, unlike digital, which is instantaneous. But we also then moved from making still photographs and doing books to doing films, and that meant shooting in 16 millimeter. And on my right here, you'll see splicers, a little viewing scope. These are like ancient tools now. Nobody uses these things unless you're really dedicated to shooting in 16 millimeter. But from these simple tools, we were able to create a variety of works, which I'll show you next. Before Visual Communications started making films, we actually did educational booklets. And this was done in conjunction with school systems. And the whole point of it was to make sure that Asian American kids and other children understood a little bit about our backgrounds. So our first project was called the Ethnic Understanding Series, and it was in two parts. The first part was a series of booklets called Asian American People and Places, and it covered photo essays basically of a family in Chinatown, or a Filipino female doctor, and a day in the life on a strawberry farm. So it was a variety of stories that covered many different Asian nationalities. The second part of the project was the East-West Activities Kit, and this was using the concept of games to explore Asian American culture. This wall of photographs is called We Are the People, and it was curated by Bob Nakamura. And it reflects the variety of communities and peoples that we tried to document in the early days of visual communications. In many cases, these photographs were taken for books for children. In other cases, they were just part of documenting life in the community. So that included workday scenes, demonstrations, cultural activities, and I think it really reflects our goal of making sure that everyday lives were valued. Video Stories from the VC archives was curated by Dwayne Kubo and myself, and it represents our attempt to find gems that are hidden within the hundreds of thousands of still photographs and moving picture images at the VC archives. Now, all of these 30 stories are actually available online, so you can see them by clicking on the link below. Now, what we try to do in these video stories is cover a variety of things, from political events to profiles of artists to everyday life in the community, such as life on Chungking Road, which is now full of art galleries, but back in the early 70s was a vibrant community of stores, garment factories, residents, and you'll see a picture of life as it was then and contemplate all the changes that are taking place now in Chinatown.